using me. He was just acting weird and saying crazy things like somebody's gonna come looking for him because they heard Tori. And like, why would they come looking for you? You know, it just wasn't. I just left it alone.
So you held the vigil at under the tree where Tori was found, but
Yes.
the defendant, who was supposedly her friend, did not come.
No, he didn't come.
Was the vigil before or after Tori's funeral?
It was before.
Obviously, you held a funeral for Tori.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Did you notify the defendant of it?
Yes.
Did he attend?
Yes.
Did you have any contact with him at the funeral?
At the funeral, after the funeral, I seen him after we did a celebration of life for Tori, a second line, New Orleans South second line, because we're from New Orleans. And at the end, he came up to me, he hugged me and embraced me, you know, saying I'm so sorry, you know, and all this, you know. Yeah, we was just having a moment at that time.
Was that between Tori's funeral and now, was that the last contact you had with the defendant?
No, I spoke with him after the funeral several times, but I had another event for her. Her birthday was in September, so we had another party for her celebration. He didn't attend that either, but I was talking to him after the funeral.
Okay. At any point, did he tell you anything about what happened to Tori?
No,
At any point, did he, I guess, shed any light upon her death?
no,
Did he ever tell you that he had been there at the time that she died?
no.
Now, you also, there was also, when you reported Tori, well, did you report Tori missing?
Yes, I did.
Who'd you report her missing to?
I called DeKalb County Police because we lived in DeKalb County to report her missing on Wednesday afternoon
Did
of
you also,
28th.
I'm sorry, finish.
It was July 28th. I reported her missing.
Did you also at some point report to police that your firearm was missing?
Yes, I notified the Gwinnett detectives when they came over to tell me what happened to Tori. At that time, I notified them about it. And that's when I really noticed it was missing.
Did you know what happened to it?
No.
To show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 3, 4, and 5. You recognize these?
Yes.
All right, what is State's Exhibit 3?
That was the casing my gun was in, or where I bought it in.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of the gun case that your firearm was in?
Yes.
What is State's Exhibit 4?
It's the receipt from the location I purchased it from.
Is that a true and accurate depiction of that receipt?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 5? You recognize it?
Yes.
What's State's Exhibit 5?
Some bullets.
Were those the rounds that were located inside the gun case that you had?
I think so, yes.
Your Honor, the state would tender States 3, 4, and 5.
Objection, Judge.
States 3, 4, and 5 are admitted without objection.
Do you recall what make and model gun it was?
It was a SIG compact.
Showing you State's Exhibit 3 is being published to the jury. this is the gun case. Is a yellow band that says, currently upside down, but P365 10+1. Is that the model of gun that you had?
Yes,
And is that a secondary magazine for it?
correct.
This is State's Exhibit 4. This is the receipt for the gun that you bought.
Yes,
And does it show that you purchased a 6-hour P365 9mm?
correct.
Did you know what happened to that gun?
No,
Did you ever see Tori with that gun?
no,
Do you know if the defendant has ever been in your house?
yes,
Has he?
yes, he has.
Was this prior to Tori's death?
When you say prior, you mean
Before?
yes,
On July 27th, were you home all day?
no,
Did you have your gun with you?
no,
At any point, did you ever give the defendant permission to do anything with your gun?
no,
Did you ever give him permission to touch your gun?
no,
And the defendant, well, let me ask you this. Is Tori's alleged friend Austin Ford in the courtroom today?
yes, he is.
Identify him, please.
He's right there with the gray suit on.
That's all the questions I have at this time.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination from the defense.
If I ask you a question that you don't understand, you just let me know, and then I'll try to rephrase it so that you and I are on the same page, okay? Let me start here. What day did you feel like Tori was missing?
Well, July 27th to the 28th.
July 27th to the 28th. And she was living with you at the time, is that right?
Correct.
She always lived with you, is that right?
Yes, for the most part. Yeah, for the most part, yes.
In between the time she graduated in 2020, when COVID had just first started, and the time of her death in 2021, she lived with you during that time, is that right?
Yes.
So was it the morning of the 28th when you didn't see her that you felt something was wrong, or was it the night before, on the 27th?
The night before, going into the 28th.
Going into the 28th. And when did you first learn that Tori had been located?
Thursday, on the 29th of July.
And when did you first discover that your gun was missing?
Actually, that morning of the 29th.
Okay, so was it before you learned that Tori had been discovered that you discovered your gun missing?
Yes, that morning, yes. Because I
Okay.
was getting ready to go out looking for her again, so I wanted to bring it along with me.
Okay, good. So you were going to go out looking for Tori, you went to get your gun, and at that point in time, you saw that your gun was missing. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, and I'm going to show you what's been marked Stacy Exhibit 3. Was this where your gun was normally kept in this case?
No.
All right. Did that case house your gun at some point in time when the gun was purchased?
When it was purchased, yes.
When it was purchased? And typically, did you keep your gun in a holster or did you keep it in that case?
In a holster.
In the holster. And typically, did you keep your gun by your bed? Where did you typically keep your gun?
Most times I used to carry it with me because I have a license to carry. Most of them I carry it with me. So sometimes it's my purse or if I'm home, it may still be in my purse or whatever.
All right, do you recall the last time you actually saw the gun?
Yes.
When was that?
It was around July the 19th or 20th.
July 19th or 20th of 2021?
Correct.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay, July 19th of 2021. Had Austin Ford been in your house at all in July of 2021?
It's a possibility he has because he always come over when we're not there.
Okay. Were you out of town in between July 19th and July 28th of 2021 when Tori died at the park?
Yes, I was out of town previously.
All right, and did Austin Ford habitually come to your house or come into your house when you weren't there?
Yes, he does.
Okay, do you recall at a prior hearing indicating under oath that Austin Ford rarely came to your house? He normally would stay at the corner and Tori would go out and meet him. Do you recall saying that at a prior hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
He don't come there when we're there. He come mostly when we're not there.
Okay.
And if he come to the house, they'll go outside and chill outside or whatever, walk up the street or go somewhere together.
All right, so if I understand your testimony here today in front of the jury, you were out of town between July 20th and July the 28th, is that right?
No, I went out of town. It was that weekend. Whatever that weekend. I want to say that it was July 17th. I was in New Orleans, something like that.
Okay.
We came back around the 19th.
All right, did you have the gun in your possession when you were in New Orleans?
Correct.
Okay, so the gun was in your possession on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. When you got back from New Orleans, where did you place the gun?
It was still in my bag, I think. In my bag I brought.
In your bag, and was your bag typically kept in the car, or did you typically bring your bag into the house from the car?
In the house.
Okay,
It was my travel bag.
I got you. July 19th, you return from New Orleans, you have your travel bag, your gun is in your bag. Got it. Did you then go back out of town after July 19th?
No.
Okay. So between July 19th, when you bring the travel bag in with the gun, and July 28th, when Tori is shot, Austin Ford is not in your home. Is that fair to say?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, let me take a step back. Did you go out of town after you came back in from New Orleans on July 19th of 2021? Did you go back out again?
I don't have to go out of town for him to come over. You know,
Okay.
I don't have to be home when he come over. I don't necessarily be out of town when he comes over. He comes over when I'm not home.
Okay, I want to understand a few things. In between July 19th, 2021 and July 28th, 2021, when Tori was located at Yellow River Park, were you working full-time?
Yes.
Okay, and so you would leave the house when you were working, is that right?
At that time, I was working from home.
Right, because that was in the middle of COVID, right?
Oh, you asking me a question? Yes, I
Yes, ma'am.
guess. Oh,
July of 2021, we're in COVID at that time, am I right?
yes.
Okay, and so you're working at home, correct?
Yes.
All right, so I'm just trying to nail this thing down. You come back from out of town, you have your gun July 19th, 2021. You recall last seeing the gun July 19th, 2021, correct?
Correct.
And in the next 9 days, you don't go back out of town and you're working from home, correct?
Yes.
Right, and you can't tell the jury that Austin Ford at any time in those 9 days came to your home. Is that fair to say?
No, because I don't know. I don't be at home all day long.
I
And he did come to our house, and within that time, he came on the outside. He didn't come inside. When I was there, he came.
Yes, ma'am. I guess The prosecutors asked certain questions about whether or not Austin Ford may have been inside your home and taken your gun. That's really what I'm asking about. Do you understand that?
Okay,
Okay, you came back from New Orleans on the 19th of July 2021, correct?
okay,
You
yes,
had your gun with you, right?
yes,
And Tori comes up shot July 28th, 2021 at Yellow River Park. Is that right?
yes.
In those
She was
nine,
found on the 28th, yeah.
right. In those 9 days in between the time you return from New Orleans and the time Tori is shot, you are working from home, correct?
Yes, and it's only in the early morning.
Okay, and in the afternoon, what are you doing?
Whatever, running errands, going out.
Okay,
I don't stay. I'm not a homebody, so
I
I work in the morning. I do whatever I have to do for the day.
I understand, ma'am, but we're still talking about July 2021 in the middle of COVID, correct? You're not going to tell the jury that while there were restrictions in DeKalb County about moving around, you were just out and about 6, 7, 8 hours a day in DeKalb County in July 2021. You're not going to tell the jury that, are you?
Yes, I am, because around that time we were able to go. People was going out more, shopping more. Everything was like almost back to normal.
Okay, so if I understand your testimony correctly, in the 9 days when you returned from New Orleans and in between the time you returned from New Orleans and the time that Tori is shot, your testimony is Austin Ford could have come to your home and taken your gun. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay, there we are. Do you typically keep the gun by your bedside at all?
I do keep it there by the bedside sometimes, not all the time.
Okay, not all the time. And so in the 9 days when you're out and about, you're not carrying it with you in those 9 days. Is that right?
No,
And
I
you're
wasn't
not
carrying.
keeping it by your bedside. Is that right?
No,
Right. And even though Tori didn't tell you that Austin had been at the house, and you don't have any evidence that Austin had been at the house, your position today is Austin might have been at the house and might have taken the gun. Is that right?
typically she don't tell me that he's at the house. They just come over. So yes,
I got you. Do you have any sort of security ring camera or anything like that at your house?
no, my neighbor does.
Okay, the neighbor does. Did the neighbor show you any ring camera that showed Austin pulling up in a car and coming into your home anytime in the 9 days in between the time you returned from New Orleans and the time that Tori was found dead?
I didn't check the ring camera for those days, and I asked him. And only time I checked the ring camera was when we discovered that she wasn't here anymore, to see did she actually return back home that night or whatever. And he did come by our house on the 27th, look for Tori several times.
Okay,
And my
good.
husband caught him outside as he was pulling up, saw him outside, and he came prior to that. He said, looking for Tori.
Yes, ma'am, and he was on the ring camera then, correct? Or you don't know?
I didn't look back for the time
Okay,
frame. I
that's
just
fine.
looked for the time frame that the last time I seen her.
Yes, and after Tori, after the police discovered Tori deceased, and after you had determined that Austin Ford had lied to you, you didn't follow up with your neighbor to see if Austin Ford had been at your house in the 9 days prior to Tori's disappearance. Is that right?
Well, I didn't know he did anything to her. I just said he's seen her. I didn't think to go look back for that for him.
You understand at some point in time, the detective in the case told you that she's taking warrants against Austin Ford. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall when that happened?
Yes, that was Good Friday of 22, April 15th, 22.
April 15th, 2022. In between April 15th and 2022 and today, did you ever go talk to the neighbor to see if the neighbor had ring camera footage of Austin Ford coming to your home in the 9 days prior to Tori's disappearance?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't my job to do that. I mean, I thought the
I-
detective would work on that part. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yes, I understand that, ma'am.
I
But
was in shock to find out it was him, so
yes, ma'am. And you find out in April of 2022, correct?
correct,
Okay, good. So you're still trying to figure out what happened, are you not?
correct.
Okay, and so when we start talking about how the gun left your home, you don't know how your gun left your home, is that right?
Correct.
You just know it was last in your home on July 19, 2021. Is that right?
That's why I last put my eyes on it, yes.
Okay, when you last put your eyes on it. So just in an effort to figure out if Tori took the gun or if Austin was inside your home in the 9 days, did you ever ask a neighbor if they saw anything or if the Ring camera captured anything?
Back in April 22, when I found out they were putting warrants out,
Yes, ma'am. Anytime
no,
after
no,
that?
I didn't.
Okay. Is that the only gun that you purchased in the last 3 years? The gun that was in that case?
Yes,
All right. And the type of ammunition, State's Exhibit number 5, is this the type of, are these the rounds that were inside of the, is that the ammunition that was inside of the gun case?
yes,
And you gave you gave the case and the ammunition to the police, is that right?
correct.
All right, were you familiar with the type of rounds those were when you gave those rounds to the police, the ammunition to the police?
No,
Okay, do you recall if you gave that to the original investigator, Detective Smith, or if you gave that to someone else, the ammunition along with the gun case?
to Corporal Smith.
Corporal Smith. Were there letters that you also gave to Corporal Smith when Corporal Smith came to the house?
The letters I gave him, he went in Tori's room and collected her journals.
Okay, so,
It was separate sheets of journals that she was journaling.
all right, Detective Smith collected any correspondence that he thought was relevant from Tori's room, is that right?
He collected everything, yeah.
Did he show you any of the letters or the diaries that he collected from Tori's room?
I saw some of them. It was basically she was journaling to God, praying to God. She journaled when she prayed to God, and she journaled to God when she just reading or whatever. It was just basically journals that she was. I didn't read all of them.
Okay. Did you see anything in the journal that would have led you to believe that she and Austin weren't best friends in July of 2021?
Well, her journal wasn't about her best friends or anything like that. It was just like I said, she was just praying to God and stuff like that. She prayed by writing it.
I understand. Did you understand my question?
Yes.
My question was there anything in the journal that would indicate that she and Austin were not best friends in July of 2021?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it. If you can answer that question, ma'am, please do so.
I didn't read everything, so what I read was only about God. That's all I saw.
Okay. Were Tori and Austin best friends in July of 2021?
They were friends or whatever.
Okay. They weren't. You wouldn't describe them as best friends. Is that right?
Absolutely not. She may thought there was more than just friends or whatever. She probably considered him as a friend, a friend or whatever, but I don't consider him that.
Ma'am, we're not talking about what you may have considered. We're talking about your daughter in terms of the contact that she had and how she described Austin and talked about Austin. Was Austin and Tori best friends in July of 2021?
They were close friends.
Okay, and how long had they been close friends?
Maybe like 4 to 5 years.
Okay, all through high school, correct?
Not all through high school, but like 4 or 5 years.
All right, Tori had just graduated in
2020. Yeah.
in 2020, correct?
Yes.
Okay, she only spent 4 years in high school, correct?
Yes, but she met him at Stevenson, not at Arabia. She went to high school in Arabia Mountain to high school.
Okay,
But she
so,
met him when she went to Stevenson.
okay, and what year was that? What year did she start Stevenson?
It had to be like 2018, I think.
Okay, so she met him in,
2018, something
okay,
like that.
she met him in 2018 and she died in 2021. That would have only been 3 years, yet you said they were friends for 5 years.
Like 4 to 5 years, yeah, something like that.
Got you. She graduated in 2020, did she not?
Tori graduated in 2020.
2020 from Stevenson High School, is that right?
Correct.
And at the time, after she graduated, was she working?
After she graduated, she did work some.
What type of work did she do?
But prior to graduation, she was working in the mall at a clothing store
Okay,
and another location in the mall.
okay. And then in 2020, I understand it was COVID when she graduated in May of 2020, correct?
Correct.
I understand it was COVID going on at the time, but was she working at all in 2020?
No, they later, they wasn't working, the mall was closed, so no.
Okay, so when COVID hit Georgia and things started shutting down, Tori was sort of at the house?
Yes, or about her grandmother or whatever, yes.
And how far does her grandmother live from her?
Less than 10 minutes.
So between May of 2020 and December of 2020, Tori was sort of in between your house and her grandmother's house, is that right?
Yes.
All right. 2026, in 2016, when Tori was a freshman, did she have a suicidal ideation issue that put her in the hospital?
Well, can you explain what that means?
I'm gonna rephrase the question. In 2016, was Tori hospitalized?
Hospitalized, there was an incident when we took her to the hospital,
Okay, and was she held for more than 24 hours?
but we were there waiting. You know, we're just waiting, typically waiting out. I can't remember how long it was. It was a long time, though.
Okay, so you don't remember her actually being checked into the hospital, is that right?
But it was seeing her, yes, it was seeing her at the hospital, local hospital, children's hospital, yeah.
Okay, well, let me take a step back. You end up taking Tori to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
Did you end up leaving Tori at the hospital? Did they keep her at the hospital?
I didn't leave her at the hospital, no.
Okay, when you're there at the hospital and the hospital's doing their examination, what are they examining her for? What's the issue that had you taking her to the hospital?
Well, she wasn't feeling good. She made a statement saying that she took some medicine or whatever, so they was checking her out for that.
Okay, so it was a physical issue that she was there for. She was there for a physical issue like a stomach ache, is that right, in 2016?
I can't recall. I can't remember if it was a stomach ache or not, but she wasn't feeling good. She took some medicine or whatever, made a statement about taking some medicine. So we were concerned parents, so we took her to the doctor to see what was going on.
Okay, so it wasn't any issue about she may have taken any sort of drugs or anything like that? That
Oh, no.
wasn't the issue in 2016, is that right?
No.
Okay, and although you testified, do you recall testifying at a prior hearing that she was checked into the hospital in 2016?
Checked in?
Checked
I mean,
in.
you asked me, no, I don't. She went to the hospital.
All right, did she go to the hospital again during all of the time that she was in high school?
For
For whatever reason?
No,
For whatever
no.
reason. So prior to her death, the only time Tori had went to the hospital was 2016 when you took her to the hospital, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, but
I mean,
you don't recall exactly what the issue was other than her saying she didn't feel well in 2016, is that right?
she made a statement. She wasn't feeling well. She took some medicine.
Okay, and when you say she took some medicine, she took medicine that was prescribed to her?
I'm not sure. She didn't say it was. I don't know what medicine she took.
Okay, so Tori took some medicine, wasn't feeling well, and then you took her to the hospital, but you don't know where she got the medicine from that she took, is that right?
She made a statement saying she took some medicine. You know, come to find out, it wasn't nothing. So
Okay, you say it wasn't nothing, but I'm just trying to understand. It wasn't medicine that you and her family had taken her to get a prescription for prior to you going to the hospital, was it?
no.
Okay, so the first time that you had ever heard that Tori had consumed any medicine in 2016 is when Tori said she's not feeling well and she needed to go to the hospital, is that right?
She said she wasn't feeling well, so we took her to the hospital to see what was going on.
Right, but the reason she wasn't feeling well is she had taken some medication that wasn't prescribed to her, is that right?
She stated that she took some medicine.
Okay, but you don't know if she actually took that medicine, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and you don't recall what the actual issue was, a headache, stomach ache, or anything like that you took her to the hospital for, is that right?
She said she wasn't feeling well.
Okay,
But
I
she said
got
she
you.
took some medicine. I don't know if she
I
was.
got you. How many times did you speak to Austin Ford after Tori died?
I can't recall. We spoke numerous times.
Okay, did he ever appear when he was talking to you to be under the influence of any drugs, medicine, or alcohol?
No,
Okay, when he attended the funeral, but not the vigil, is that right?
correct.
Okay, and although you, as you described it, he was talking weird, he didn't appear to be under the influence of any drugs, medicine, or alcohol, is that right?
No,
And when he attended the funeral, was his mother with him?
yes.
Okay, so it was Austin Ford and his mother that came to the funeral, is that right?
And someone else because they signed her book,
Okay,
her guest book.
and was that the last time you saw Austin Ford face to face?
No,
When did you see Austin Ford after that, face to face?
when I was in his neighborhood, passing out flyers of Tori, putting up flyers in the neighborhood.
Okay, and at that time, did you have a chance to speak to him?
Yes.
All right, did he appear to be under the influence of drugs, medicine, alcohol at that time?
No,
Had you ever seen Austin Ford in the times that he had visited your home under the influence of any drugs, medicine, alcohol?
what was the question?
The question was, at any point in time when Austin Ford came to your home in the either 3, 4, or 5 years when he knew Tori, did you ever see him under the influence of any drugs, medicine, or alcohol?
No,
Thank you very much. No further questions, Judge.
Redirect from the state.
I think there was some confusion about being checked into the hospital and being admitted. So let me ask you this. Did you take Tori to the hospital?
yes,
Did you leave her there?
no,
Did she spend the night there in a room where she had a doctor or nurse assigned to her and had to be released by a doctor before she could leave?
no,
In the letters that you read where you said Tori was praying to God in the letters, did any of those letters mention hurting herself?
no,
Did they ever mention a gun of any
absolutely
kind?
not. No,
Did they mention finding someone to hurt her?
absolutely not.
Did you ever really give a formal interview to Corporal Smith about Tori?
No,
When did you, well, I guess, when did you first talk to Corporal Smith about what had happened to Tori?
it was the day he came to tell us that she wasn't here anymore.
Was that the day you gave him the gun case?
Yes,
At any point, did you really talk to him about her life, about what was going on with her at the time, as far as you knew?
no. He didn't ask me anything like that, so.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Recross.
Very briefly, Ms. Lang, I thought you had testified earlier that you didn't read all of the stuff that Detective Smith collected from your daughter's bedroom. Did you testify to that?
I didn't read everything.
That's correct.
I didn't read everything, no. It was
Right.
too much stuff to read, so.
Right. So when you answer the prosecutor's questions that you didn't see anything in the letters or the diary about hurting herself, you didn't read everything in the letters and the diaries.
My answer was that what I read didn't indicate that she seen a gun, wanted a gun, or wanted to hurt herself. That's what I read, so.
And that's fair enough. And what I'm trying to understand is based on what Detective Smith had collected, did you read 90% of what he had collected or 10% of what he had collected from your daughter's bedroom, her correspondence, her thoughts?
No, I didn't read 90% of it, no.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Judge.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, you can step down, please.
Okay.
Watch your step. All right, and Mr. Wooten, if you can move the exhibits back up here to clear the witness stand, and if you'll call your next witness.
Theodore Young.
might just come